This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to send us your PR Podcast plug. Now, as PR people, we're trained to be behind the scenes, right? We're not out front. We're not looking for the spotlight. That's where we put our clients. But here on this show, we talk about us. We talk about the work that we do. And the PR Podcast plug is a way we designed to give you some attention for something cool that you've done. It's not the media hit. Look, if you got your client on the front page of the New York Times or, fill in your media outlet, that's cool. We want to hear about that. We want to love on you for that. But we also want to give you some props for things like your blog, your cool TikTok channel, the award you just won, the book you just published. It's like our bulletin board, right? Send us your PR podcast plug to at the PR podcast on any of the socials. Send us a DM. You got to follow us first, right? We'll follow you back. Then send us a DM. Let us know something cool that you did. We'll give you a PR podcast plug at the top of an upcoming show. Now let's get on with our show for today. We got a great guest. Ryan Gerding is president and COO of Kansas City-based Inc. PR, representing clients across a wide variety of industries, from food production and green building to leadership training, mental health experts, authors, and tech. Ryan utilizes his background as a former reporter. Are you ever really a former reporter? To bring value to clients, and says that data-driven stories resonate the most, not just for his clients, but as well as the media they want to connect with. And that's what it's all about. Ryan, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jody. It's great to be here.
So the best PR people used to be reporters, right? I was one, you were one. Tell us about your background as a reporter.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a proud graduate of the University of Missouri School of Journalism, go Tigers, and spent 8 years as a local news reporter, anchor, and photographer in markets ranging from Columbia, Missouri to Cedar Rapids, Iowa to Sacramento to Lafayette, Indiana. I covered everything from presidents to quite literally a two-headed pig.
Oh, man. You can't just leave that there. We can't just drive by that. You got to give us that background.
That's what they call a tease in the news business, right? This is when I was a reporter in Iowa, and one day I was assigned to do a story, I think, on a prescription drug plan that was being debated in the legislature, but then got moved off of that because we got a call in the newsroom where someone said, "Hey, I'm a pig farmer, and one of my sows just gave birth to a pig that has two heads," and so they pulled me off of the prescription story and instead had me go out and do a story on this adorable little pig that had three eyes and two noses and two mouths, and the story went viral. It was crazy.
Of course it did. And that gives breaking news, new irony that you get pulled. I mean, usually you get pulled off because something horrific happens, right? It's like the car crash or the fire or the something that's going on that needs immediate. But boy, the two-headed pig, I've heard it all now.
That's big news in Iowa.
I bet it is. Oh, man. But having those skills of understanding what you went after as a reporter, whether it's the prescription story or the two-headed pig story, you understand the building blocks of what makes a story, right? Could you give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it really doesn't matter if you are a reporter with the Wall Street Journal or with Cat Fancy Magazine. What you're looking for is information that is going to be relevant to your audience and make you a hero to your audience and to your editors. And so that really is what it all comes down to. And what we as PR professionals have to remember is that we're trying to make these journalists' lives easier and to help them deliver content that really is relevant and meaningful to their specific audience.
So In a nutshell, exactly what I try to preach as well here. It's all about not just the reporter, but about the audience that they are servicing. So how do you bring that across to your clients with the work that you do for them? Are there ways that you can align them and say, look, you've got this story you want to tell. Here's how we need to tell it.
Yeah, all of us PR practitioners know that every one of our clients thinks they have the greatest story that's never been told, and many of them do have fantastic stories. But you can't just call a reporter up and say, "I've got an interesting widget that does X," because everybody has an interesting widget that does X, and you've got to be able to either find ways that what your client is doing ties into things that are happening in the media, find ways that your client maybe makes their product or runs their business that is different and that is unique, and to really just think like a reporter as opposed to thinking like a marketer. And sometimes that's really hard to do.
Yeah, it can be really challenging. And also to think about the person maybe who's picking up the newspaper or turning on the TV and going to the news program. Think about what they want to see and why they come to any particular outlet to get information, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why at Inc. we pride ourselves on custom tailored pitches to individual reporters, editors, and producers based on what we know about them, about their audience, about what's happening in the news. You can't just blast the same press release or the same pitch to 500 people and expect to be successful.
You can't? Really? You can't?
No.
It's so true. It's so true. Part of what you do and do really effectively, and why we wanted to have you on the show today, is the work that you do with data and surveys. You know, I frequently say that all reporters need to traffic in facts. All reporters need to rely on factual information. But there are some reporters that go a level deeper and they report on data and they report on surveys or new information or things that are numbers based. And business reporters, that this is their whole life, right? They're reporting on numbers related to something. How do you work with your clients on data and surveys and generating that information, generating that news, and then pitching it out?
Well, I think a couple of things that it's important that if we're conducting a survey or if we're looking for data, the first thing we have to find is something that is going to be surprising to the media and to their audience. That's obviously the first way to catch someone's attention. One example that I like to give is we had a client that was a hotel chain that wanted to promote a promotion they were having for grandparents, where if they showed a picture of their grandkids when they checked into the hotel and stayed more than 2 nights, they would get one night free. And so we worked with them to commission a survey where we asked grandparents, when you go visit the grandkids, would you rather stay with them or would you rather stay in a hotel? And surprisingly, the vast majority of grandparents said, we'd rather stay in a hotel. And so that bit of data was something that was unique and something that was surprising and something that really resonated with the media that we went out to. So first, it's got to be something that certainly is surprising or unique. Another thing that's important is if the data that you find or if the survey that you do has results that confirms trends that are already being discussed. And a good example of that is a client of ours that helps restaurants, say thousands of restaurants all over the country, save money on everything from tomatoes to tablecloths. And so they collect tons and tons of data that show what restaurants are purchasing around the country. And if we all remember, as we came back from COVID, there was a terrible shortage of employees in the restaurant industry, still is. And we wanted to look at the data to see if there were food purchasing trends that would show what restaurants were doing to combat that. And what we found is restaurants were ordering more pre-made food items. So there was a dramatic increase in the number of pre-chopped onions that they were ordering because they just couldn't pay a sous chef or couldn't find a sous chef to chop onions in the kitchen. Or there was an increase in the number of pre-made soup bases that the restaurants were ordering because they couldn't find someone to stand in the kitchen and stir a pot of chicken stock all day. And so we were able to identify those purchasing trends, tie it into a discussion that was already happening in the media, and turn it into coverage that both got the client's name out, but also highlighted their expertise, which happened to be helping restaurants find the correct products to buy. So if you can find data, either in your own data or in surveys that you conduct, that tie into trends that are already being discussed, it's a great way to get attention.
Those are great stories and great examples. And the end result sounds terrific, right? We figured out this way to get them some unusual or maybe surprising coverage. But the front end of that conversation is probably a little challenging, right? I mean, just asking a client to mount a survey, right? Or to dig into some data, that sometimes can be like asking them to cut off a thumb, right? I mean,
Yeah,
tell me about that.
without question. And another of the challenges is, you'll have clients that want to maybe do a survey where the results simply show that a lot of people like their type of product. Well, that's kind of a no duh survey. If you're a tennis racket company and you come out with a survey that says people like to play tennis, that is great for you, but that is not anything that's going to get the media interested in. And so you've got to have discussions with the clients to say that it's great to have some of that data that supports directly what you do, but it's also important to find other ways to tell that story that are more compelling. And I'll give you another example. We had a project that we worked on with a client that made a PDF editing software. So it was software that made it so you can turn a Word document into a PDF. You could sign your name to the document. You could manipulate it. It was simply a tool. And so they had some survey results from people who said, yes, it would be easier. I would like for it to be easier to manipulate these documents. Okay, that's fine. But then one day, one of my brilliant colleagues came into me and said she saw someone on TikTok complaining that her boss, who makes $1 million a year, asks her 4 times a week to convert a Word document into a PDF. And we thought, well, there's a question. And so we worked with them to design a survey question where we asked younger employees, how often do you have to provide tech support to your older bosses because the tools that they use aren't very helpful? Well, that resulted in some surprising answers that then led to a discussion of what their product does and how it benefits the end consumer.
Going a level deeper and also maybe a little bit of lightning striking there with that TikTok video, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now there can also be some mistakes that companies run when they run surveys. You mentioned one like, the no duh survey. Are there other mistakes that you can make that will, let's say, lead you down the path to the wrong result in a survey?
Yeah, I mean, one example that comes up, and it's a mistake that we made with a client of ours, a home security client. And so we did a survey that asked a bunch of people different types of questions about home security. But one of the questions that we had that we thought was cute was, which celebrity would you most or least like to protect your house from burglars? Just to get funny answers. I think Chuck Norris was the person that people would most like to protect their house, and any member of Congress was the person that they least wanted to protect their house, which was fine. And we got them some coverage, but it was tongue in cheek coverage that didn't really explain what the client did and what their value proposition was, just kind of said they were a home security company. And so while it was nice to get their name out, it wasn't necessarily something that really spoke back to what their actual expertise was.
Yeah, that's really the secret there is, as you put it, converting from tongue-in-cheek PR and exposure to actual, hey, here's what we do, here's the service we provide, here's why you want to work with us, kind of a reaction. Um, are there ways that you like to try to get people to those answers? Are there ways you build your data or your surveys in order to make sure that you're going to arrive at that kind of an endpoint?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of times, especially when it's a survey, where you sort of start off with the answer that you hope you'll get, and you can word your question in a way that will at least lead people in that direction. Not to be misleading or dishonest, but if you at least have an idea in mind when you're starting the survey of what do we really hope to accomplish and what is the message that we hope to get once we have all of the answers, then you can craft some of those questions in such a way that it will yield the results that will be compelling to the media.
I've got to imagine too that in addition to um, getting a result that you can use to get publicity, get to use to get attention, that the act of doing that survey or acquiring that data is also helpful to the business's business operations. Like it's not just hey, it got us in the newspaper, but it's wow, we can use this information to run our business better.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We had a client that made anti-malware software, so it would check for viruses on your computer. And we had access to data that showed times of year when infections went up or went down for whatever reason. And as you might expect, infections went up during times when people were spending more time online or doing more things where they might be susceptible to viruses. So during the holiday shopping season, viruses spiked because people were online more. Well, we actually looked for the opposite to see when did infections drop. And on a whim, I looked in cities with high Catholic populations and found that during Lent, virus infections dropped. And it was because during Lent, people were giving up some of the activities that led to infections like online shopping, online gambling, visiting adult websites. And when they gave those up, the traffic went down. And so it was really unique information that the client could use to sort of decide, from an SEO perspective, from an advertising perspective, when it might make sense to reach more viewers and a greater audience. And I'll tell you on that Lent story, the Monday after Easter, the infection spiked right back up again.
Oh man, having been raised in that tradition, I can identify. Although I've never understood that, like the giving up thing. I'm like, why not do something? But in any case, we digress. That's a great story. That is a fantastic story. I love that. Um, and I want to end on the note of these are all great outcomes, right? How does the conversation start to get a client to do one of these things? Yes, you can dangle the shiny object of, and we'll get great news coverage in front of them, but that only gets them so far, as you've experienced firsthand. What are some of the key things that you need to say? How do you set the table for a successful survey, a successful engagement of this kind with a client that's going to make everybody come out and say, oh, that was worth the effort?
Right. And that can be a challenge. And part of it comes from already having a good relationship with the client where they trust you because you've already delivered results for them in the first place. Another part is if you can show the client examples of results that you've gotten for other clients when you did the exact same thing. But you really do make a great point, Jody, that all of this information that can be gathered in surveys and in data can be used for more than just sending out PR pitches. I mean, this is information that can be used in content that they create, for their own blogs and for their own social media, for their own sales material. And quite honestly, it can just give them deeper insights into what's going on in their industry and where they might need to make some changes or adjustments. So if you can convince them that there's certainly value in the publicity part of it, but there's also broader value in it as well, then you've got a good case to be made.
It's a great way to help clients get the publicity that they want, but also help them run their business. And it comes back to what we truly are, is not just publicists, but counselors. We help people run their businesses better.
Absolutely. We hope we do.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely do. Ryan, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. We are not finished with our show yet, though. We are going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor's studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. With your indulgence, Ryan, let's begin with rapid fire question number 1. What's your favorite news source?
My favorite news source is whoever most recently published an article on one of my clients.
No, that's a great answer. We've never had that one. That's awesome. I love it. And it's the truth. It is the truth.
Yeah, without question.
Rapid fire question number 2. What's your favorite social media platform?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm on Twitter a lot. Facebook is okay. Can I say none of the above and all of the above? I mean, they're all kind of hot garbage, but necessary. There, that's the tagline for your next
That's
social
the
media
bumper sticker.
platform.
That's the bumper sticker, right? Hot garbage, but necessary. We're making t-shirts.
Yes.
Rapid fire question number 3. Coffee or alcohol?
Yes.
Fully agreed. Fully agreed. Rapid fire question number 4. What's your favorite on the run food?
Has to be peanut M&Ms.
Ooh, good one. Good one.
Yeah.
Rapid fire question number 5. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
Oh, still young. Number one. I hope it's a while before my career is done. What do I want to be? What do I want to do? I love to travel. I love to cook. Whatever I do, I want to do it with the love of my life, my wife of 27 years, Kelly. And whatever I'm doing, I'll be happy if she's by my side.
That sounds like the right answer, my friend. I love that.
And she is literally by my side, so that's why
right
I
there.
said that. I love you, dear.
Love it. All right, man. Ryan, this has been a great conversation. Like we said, please let people know how they can find you online.
Yeah, absolutely. We are Inc. Public Relations, and that's INKINCPR.com.
Sounds good, Ryan. Thanks again. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.